Welcome, and thank you for joining today's NSPIRE for Vouchers Office Hours sessions for PHAs. Please note that all audience audio connections will be muted until the Q&A portion of the call. We will give you instructions on how to ask a question at that time. You are welcome to submit written questions throughout the presentation using the chat feature located in the bottom toolbar. If you do not see the toolbar, please move your cursor to the toolbar and the toolbar will appear. If you are on a mobile device, tap your screen to display the toolbar. If you need technical assistance, please send a chat and address the Inteller Events host. With that, I'll turn the call over to Joachim Poot, Program Manager in the Real Estate Assessment Center. Please go ahead.
Thank you so much, and thank you everyone for joining today. I see we have about 130 attendees so far. I'm hopeful to see that number keep climbing as it does. And while we're waiting for that, I will kick this, our second NSPIRE for Vouchers office hours session for any voucher program that is preparing to become compliant with the NSPIRE HQS standards, which now has a compliance deadline of 10/1/2025. HUD and the Real Estate Assessment Center are putting together a handful of information sessions that PHAs and voucher programs are able to learn, share, ask best practices and questions. Today we have a group of SMEs. If you could advance the slide. One more slide, please. The SMEs listed here are all going to be available during this session. We have a handful of slides that we're going to run through, just covering some key highlights from the NSPIRE HQS standards, and then these SMEs will be available to help answer any questions that you have. Over the next few months, through the end of the year, we have a number of these sessions scheduled, both webinars and office hours. There's a slide later on where I'll cover that in a little more detail. But every time we have one of these sessions, we'll have SMEs on the call to really walk you through particular topics that you have raised as important to learn more about. Some of our upcoming office hours sessions will be focused on a particular standard. We'll have our standards team walk through that. But today, we're just going to go through a couple highlights about the NSPIRE HQS standards, reiterate some of the compliance requirements and deadlines, and then open it up to all folks attending for a Q&A session. Could you advance the slide? So here's sort of a general slide that represents what our goal for these sessions are. We really want to make sure that you guys are inspired and compliant and ready by 10/1/25. We're providing, as I already mentioned, a session of these office hours and webinars. This timeline kind of depicts some of those that are coming up through the end of the year. The particular topics, there's a link you'll get below in our resource section you can go to on the OPHVP's website that lists all of the upcoming sessions with the links to attend those. Our team internally has also been fantastic about sending those out well in advance of the session so that everyone gets it in their email. We're posting those updates in the HCV newsletter as well as the PIH newsletter that goes out to all executive directors. And as these keep coming and folks keep joining them, we'll look to you for suggestions on future topics. Could you forward to the next slide, please? So these, here's a little bit more detail on the office hours and general sessions that we're having. In all of these sessions, as the moderator already mentioned, the chat box will be open for questions. We're going to have a real quick review coming up in a slide or two, and then at the end of that, we'll open it up for all attendees to ask questions. You can either type your question in the chat box or raise your hand, and we'll be going kind of back and forth between folks that raise their hand and questions that are coming into the chat box to make sure that we can get through as many as possible. We don't have time, and we'll most likely not have time to answer all of the questions that are raised in this session, but we're capturing those, the ones that are put in the chat box in particular, and we're generating a Q&A document that will be posted online as well. So you can, in that one document will be continually updated from each of these sessions. Could you advance the slide, please? So here are the links that I mentioned for some very useful resources. Any questions also at any time that you have, you can email to inspire@hud.gov. There's a link here for what we'll cover briefly, the HCV checklist for NSPIRE. It's in a PDF, an Excel, or a fillable PDF format. There's a link here to the NSPIRE standards, which we encourage everyone to read through and gain a full understanding of, as well as a handful of links to some training that we have produced. There's an actual full inspector training. It takes, let's see, I took it, while also trying to incorporate other things, I'd say it took about 8 hours to get through the full training. Amazing training. There's also links to our prior webinars that are posted here. We're going to be getting the link for last month's office hour session posted as well. Just got word that became available today. That will be posted as well soon. And the decks will be given as well. But from our May 28th and July 16th session, you can see the links for those here. And there's a handful of other important resources for you to check out there below, particular towards the carbon monoxide alarms and detectors requirements. Could you advance to the next slide, please? Again, here is a link for our upcoming sessions through the end of the year. These are the office hour sessions, the links to those events. We had to change one session that we had scheduled for 10/9 of this month due to the impact of the hurricanes in the Southeast, and we moved that to the 30th of this month. That's the only key I wanted to highlight here. Next slide, please. Here is a QR code. You can go to your screen right now, take a photo, go to your camera app. It'll pull that up. We need your feedback on these, so please provide them. We want to take every opportunity to receive feedback from you all, learn what you need, get feedback on the value of the session that you're spending your time on today. So please provide this feedback. We'll put a link to this in the chat as well. But just want to make sure that you have the opportunity to give us your feedback, and thank you. I'm going to thank you for it ahead of time right now. Could you advance to the next slide, please? Okay, so with that, I am going to turn this over to our subject matter experts to begin answering any of the questions that you might have.
Okay.
Okay.
Thanks, Joachim.
Thank you guys so much.
All right, we're going to start this time with questions in the chat. So if you have questions that you want to put there, and then, but we will go back and forth between the chat and people who have their hands raised. So the first question that was asked is, when communicating the shift to NSPIRE to tenants and landlords, should we inform them NSPIRE is replacing HQS? And as we update our notices, should we remove HQS to replace with NSPIRE? Dana, do you want to get this one?
Sure. Good afternoon, good morning, whatever time it is, where everyone is. I'm Dana Kitchen. I'm a program analyst here in REAC. I'll go ahead and take this. NSPIRE is not actually replacing HQS like it is replacing UPCS in the public housing side. It's actually just redefining HQS. So it's going to get a little bit confusing for a while. Leave it to us to confuse you a little bit, right? But the NSPIRE standards are just now becoming the, for lack of a better word, the new housing quality standards. So HQS isn't going anywhere. HQS is still going to remain in regulation. It's still going to remain in statute. You're still going to see it all over the place in program regulations, in other areas of inspection regulations. The use of NSPIRE and HQS will kind of be interchangeable. There's no need to kind of reword all of your all of the documentation you have at your housing authority or your policies. NSPIRE will equal HQS, HQS will equal NSPIRE. How you kind of phrase it will depend on how you want to use it at your housing authority. It was previously defined as one thing, and now it is HQS is defined as NSPIRE now, and under Part 5 instead of Part 982.401. I hope that helps. It probably doesn't, but we'll all get used to it together.
Thank you, Dana. Okay, let's go to, we have several hands raised. So Marvin, if you can manage that piece of it.
Okay, and just real quick to give off instructions for those who did not hear them, please make sure to place yourself into question queue by using the raise hand feature located on the bottom of your screen. You can move your cursor to make sure your toolbar appears if necessary. If you're on a mobile device, tap your screen to display the toolbar and then press raise hand. You'll be unmuted when it's your turn, and a pop-up message will appear, and you'll need to accept the unmute message to become unmuted. If you're on the phone only, you can press #2 to enter the question queue. All right, so we'll go ahead and go to the first question here. So Charlie, please make sure to accept the unmute notification that's popped up on Zoom. Okay, I'm not sure if Charlie's having difficulty there. We can go ahead and try the next person.
Good afternoon. My name's Mike. I'm calling in from Belmont Housing here in Buffalo, New York. Recently discussed with one of our property owners, coming from HQS, there was kind of a variance with unvented fuel burning space heaters. It was recommended that, if there's a manufacturer, recommendation that's in compliance with AGA standards for unvented use, that would be acceptable. And taking a look at NSPIRE, I'm not seeing any of that language in there. Do you know, is that also, carrying over with NSPIRE in terms of, if it's allowable for unvented use, if that's something that's also covered under NSPIRE?
Do you want
Yeah,
me
I was
to
going to
take
say Dana or Rich, if you can take that, please.
Yeah. So unvented fuel burning space heaters are absolutely prohibited, and they were required to be removed as of the 1st of this year under the notice outside of HQS or NSPIRE. So I would highly encourage you to. The answer to your question is no, there is no variance allowed for unvented fuel burning space heaters. I would encourage you to review the PIH notice 2024-26, which is the revision of 2023-28, which talks about the prohibition of unvented fuel burning space heaters and the steps that PHAs are required to take to make sure those are removed from units and that landlords are not using them.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much.
Yep. Rich, I don't know if you had anything else to add.
No, Dana, that was clear as can be. I appreciate the response. Yep, I was ready to jump in there, but no, you're spot on. Definitely not allowed. No provision.
Okay, we'll go ahead and take the next up. It looks like the next caller opted to drop out of queue. Just a reminder, you can feel free at this time to use the raise hand icon at the bottom of your screen if you're joined through Zoom. If you are on the phone only line, you can dial #2 on your telephone keypad. I'll go ahead and take our next caller here.
Hi, I was wondering about the space heaters. Is it only fuel burning? If they are electric, is that still accepted?
Rich, can you answer that one?
Sure. There are no restrictions under our current standards for portable electric heaters if you're referring to electric. We were referring to the fuel-fired ones that have products of combustion as a result of them being fuel-fired. So no restrictions against the portable electric.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, let's go back to the chat. We have another question. And the question was, when can, wait, did it disappear?
Sorry,
Oh,
Lori,
there it is, sorry.
I think I moved it and that
That's
may
okay.
have messed you up.
That's okay.
Do you see
I
it now
got
or
it.
do you want me to read it?
I do.
Okay.
I do. I
Okay,
see
cool.
it. Thank you.
Sorry.
All right. It says, well, HUD put together something PHAs can provide property owners concerning INSPIRE standards and redefining of HQS. So HUD is working with the TA provider to develop some materials that will be owner focused as well as tenant focused. So I do think that one of the goals we have is to have a letter that PHAs can use to send to property owners to talk about what the changes are, what they need to be prepared for. And so I'm going to put in the chat there a link to these. They're both on HUD Exchange. There is a owner facing site and then a resident focused site. They're just starting to be built out, but you'll at least have the links and you can watch those pages as more materials become available. All right, we don't have any other questions in the chat or raised hands. Does anybody have anything they would like to raise to the group?
Have we already answered the question about electric space heaters and whether or not they're acceptable as a primary heat source? Okay.
Oh, as a primary heat source, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't believe we answered that question. Not used as a primary source of heat, but you do want to reference the NSPIRE standards that have the minimum temperature requirements depending on what time of year. That's in our heating and ventilation ventilation and air conditioning standard.
Thank you. Okay, there's another question. If my city has adopted city code for inspections, do we still need to follow INSPIRE guidelines? Dana, can you take that one?
Yes. Thanks for the question. So for purposes of voucher programs, if you are a PHA and you are inspecting voucher units, you are expected to inspect those units with the INSPIRE standards. Unless you have requested variances or variations to INSPIRE standards from HUD. So city code are variations. If you want to use city code and they are variations of INSPIRE, meaning if your city code isn't exactly INSPIRE or it is different from INSPIRE, you do need to come to HUD for a request to use those city codes as your inspection standards. Otherwise, if you choose not to, or you do not make those requests, INSPIRE is what you are required to use. I mean, unless you're still continuing to use HQS as it was previously defined until October 1st, 25. But with the voucher programs, you are not inspecting to city code. You are inspecting to the INSPIRE standards under HUD regulations. Variations are also discussed in the notice 2024-26. There will be a little bit more information about that coming soon in the guidebook chapter that will be released. But it is a formal request. It's also in the regulations under Part 5, 5705. I'm going to forget the exact regulation, but 5.705.
Thanks, Dana.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we kind of have a quiet group today.
Yeah,
We don't have any questions in the chat, and I don't see any raised hands. So please don't be shy. If you have any questions about specific standards, process, anything else. Oh, looks like we got a new one. Here's the question. I was told that water heaters are not considered a water source in reference to GFCI. I am wondering why, since they both have a water spigot and can leak. So Rich, can you answer that question, please?
Sure, I can take that. And yes, that is true. They are not considered a water source. It's more for open, type of sink. And if you think about the use of portable appliances on a countertop and the ability for those appliances to fall into a sink that's filled with water, a bathtub that's filled with water, and where electrocution could be possible, with that GFCI protecting against those. With a sealed unit like a water heater, that would not be a risk, and therefore is not part of the NSPIRE standards. Be considered as a water source.
Thanks, Rich.
And Rich, correct me if I'm wrong, but there is actually a list of examples somewhere of what is considered a water source, isn't there?
Yes, we do give some examples in our standards. Yes.
Okay.
All right. Thank you. Any other questions? Concerns that you want to share with us so that we can be aware? Okay, have another question. This is good. They're trickling in. The next question is, I haven't found the standard to fail a flooded basement other than from outside flooding, ? So Rich, can you handle that one?
So I'm thinking, from this question, it'd probably be like under the leak standard, if I had to guess. And you have to determine whether that leak is environmental or if it's from a plumbing system, like such as a leaking pipe. The inspector would have to determine, to the best of their ability, while on site, to determine whether it was environmental, meaning, it could be groundwater coming up through the basement. But there is locations to record those defects for those two situations that I mentioned.
Okay, thank you. How about washing machines and the GFCI? Rich, do you want it similar to water heaters?
Right, similar. The examples would be like a sink, bathtub, shower, water faucet, toilet, but not the washing machine.
Okay. I feel like I have missed a question. Ashley, can you help me?
There is one for the site draining inspection part. If inspection occurs on a dry day and drainage is not determinable, is that inspection sufficient? Is there another one needed when water is present?
I can answer that. No, the inspector will just simply inspect what's possible to inspect based on the conditions on the site at the time of the inspection. You can't foresee or look and kind of determine if something's going to be an issue unless they clearly see evidence and signs of.
Okay. Let's see here. Is HUD still considering working on an application for PHAs to utilize to record inspections, particularly those that do not plan to purchase inspection software from vendors like Yardi or Emphasis? Yoakum, can you answer that one?
Sure. So presently, we are under what we've been calling beta testing of the app for voucher programs. The existing demonstration sites that we're using, the DemoV app, are going to be able to use that until the end of the year. And by the end of the year, we plan on having a new app available for all voucher programs to download Keep your eyes posted. We'll be sending those notices out as they come, but we're hopeful that that will happen within the next month or so.
Okay, thank you. Another question. I was surprised to see that raw sewage or sewer line breaks is not a 24-hour fail or a fail at all, unless I'm missing something in the standards. Rich, can you?
I would just refer to whatever the correction time frame is there. I really, other than referencing what it is, I couldn't, I don't want to try to determine on why something, because there was a lot of studies that were, used to determine timeframes. I would just say just reference, and if you have questions specifically about how or why that may be the case, may just want to put that question through our NSPIRE@hud.gov inbox.
Yeah, but it is a fail. I mean, the second part of the question is, or a fail at all. There is a leak of sewer system fail. It's just that in the voucher program, there's a difference between 24 hours and 30 days for the severe. So yeah, like Rich said, you can certainly double check the language in the standard, but severes in the voucher program are a 30-day correction versus a 24-hour correction.
Thanks, Dina and Rich. Another question. What if we have a unit that has a sump pump in the basement to handle leaks that may happen in the basement to handle leaks? Would this pass NSPIRE? Rich?
I may need a little more clarification on the question, but the way I'm reading it is it's a system that's designed to collect water and discharge that water to an approved location. So if it's about that water draining into that, that's obviously a design system. It would not be a defect, if I'm understanding the question correctly.
Okay. If we didn't understand the question correctly, feel free to come back around. The next question is, if a unit does not have hot water because the tenant has not paid the bill, will the PHA receive a deficiency? And if in error, what documentation should be provided? I'm not sure what that last part means.
I think they're asking in terms of a HUD doing the inspection. So remember that this is voucher programs. So the PHA will not receive the deficiency. This is for voucher programs. So this would be the PHA doing the inspection. So the PHA would be issuing deficiencies to the owner of the property, or in the case of a PHA waiving the owner responsibility, potentially a family caused deficiency, which you can take a look at the program requirements for making determinations of family caused deficiencies in terms of not paying the utility bill. But yeah, this is for voucher programs. So it's not, HUD would not be issuing any deficiencies to the PHA, and you would not be providing any documentation to HUD for any of these deficiencies.
Thank you, Dana. All right. The next question is, can you repeat about washing machines in GFCIs? Because I have been informed by more than one trainer for NSPIRE that washers are included and need to be protected. So Rich, can you talk about that a little bit more?
Sure. If you look under the standards for the GFCIs, under the more information section, it actually indicates that an outlet dedicated to a major appliance such as a washing machine would not be considered a water source. So it actually explicitly states washing machine in the example of a major appliance.
Yeah, I think they're confusing, Rich, the two. I think one was asking about whether it was a water source. And I think the second question here is asking about whether or not it needs to be protected as a GFCI. So I think that's why, yeah, I think they're just confusing.
Yes, so either one is no. There's no specific requirement for it to be protected other than checking your local codes.
Okay, thank you. The next question is, just so I'm clear, if a unit has primary central gas heat as a source, is an electric space heater allowed to meet space requirements? I'm not exactly sure that last part of it. So I'm assuming if you have central gas heat and a person is still using, they need the electric space heater in order to meet the minimum temperature requirements? I'm not exactly sure what's being asked, but Rich, can you talk a little bit about what would be expected of the central gas heat at least?
Yeah, I mean, again, I would refer to, it's all about maintaining the proper temperatures according to the standards. And there's a way that the inspector measures that. They use an ambient thermometer to measure the interior air temperature that is 3 feet above the floor and 2 feet from the exterior wall. So a certain location where the air is at a point where you can measure it, that would be consistent throughout the unit. And that's how they measure it. So with the gas being the primary heating source, it sounds to me like, I think what they might be asking is sufficient to use somewhere that maybe in a room that's not getting adequate heat. I would just say that there's no standard to say that can or cannot be the case. You do have the primary heating source as the gas fired appliance, but the inspector will measure using the standard that I talked about earlier about how to actually the action he's going to use to measure that temperature.
Okay, thank you. Next question, is the fan above a stove that does not exhaust to the exterior considered an exhaust? Fan, maybe? Well, the word was left out. So is the fan above a stove that does not exhaust to the exterior, is it considered an exhaust? Does that make sense, Rich?
Yeah, I'm going to probably look this one up as we're talking, but actually under the more information, it does say kitchen exhaust does not include any kitchen ceiling or ductless recirculating. So if that device is a recirculating type, which is typical on electric stoves, where it just kind of blows back into the room, if you will, through the charcoal filter, that is not considered ventilation. If it does go to the outside, then it would be assessed as a ventilation.
Okay, thank you. We are going to go back to, we have one hand up. So if we can go back to that person, and then we'll come back to the chat.
We'll go ahead and unmute that person now.
We can barely hear you.
Sorry about that. Please make
There
sure
you go.
to accept the unmute notification on your computer there.
Dwayne, do you want to accept the unmute?
I got it.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead.
Here in North Carolina, we have, in our area, we have 40, 50, maybe 60 old houses that have old gas lines penetrating the foundation, but are capped off in the crawl space. And the landlord has switched to total electric throughout the years on these houses or units. Is a CO alarm required?
Rich?
Yeah, if there's not a fuel-fired appliance in that home, not just the gas, it's about the fuel-fired appliance. And the difference here is, with it being capped off, there's not an appliance within that dwelling that will emit products of combustion. And that's where the smoke alarm, or I'm sorry, the CO alarm would indicate if there's a leak. CO alarms do not pick up on gas leaks. So therefore, there would not be a requirement if there was no fuel-fired appliances. Hopefully that was clear.
Thank you. Dwayne, did that answer your question?
I got one more.
Okay.
We've been inspiring here for a little over a year. But anyway, for instance, he mentioned the washing machine area, the washer area, no GFIs. And what we were told through a third-party U.S. inspection group was HUD didn't want to go through the expense of landlords installing GFI. So what we've had them to do, and what we were told or asked to do, was to install a single plug instead of the duplex. And that's what we incorporated through our 400, 500 plus units.
Rich, can you speak to that at all?
I would just say, I think going back, because I think the question was using them and whether it was a requirement under our standards. No, it's not a requirement. The use of a single dedicated line is one way to ensure maybe more safe conditions, but it's not something that we're requiring either way. At the end of the day, GFCIs under HUD standards are not required for washing machines.
They were more concerned about the tenant using another appliance like an iron while washing clothes. So that's out the window, I take it.
Yes, it is not considered a water source under our standards.
Wow, things have changed over the last 2 years when started training for this. Nothing written in concrete until now, pretty much, right?
Rich?
I'm sorry, what was the last question?
I assume he talked about something in writing. I assume the standard.
Oh yeah, the standard explicitly states washing machines to be not to be considered.
So is that something they just adapted, or?
No, it's been in the most recent standards here, which have been around for 2 years, maybe on the 3.0 standards.
Interesting. That's all I have.
Okay, thank you so much. We will go back to chat questions. The next one is, for roof assembly inspections, is a physical inspection of roofs from the roof required? Are Google Map photos of the roof acceptable? Rich, can you take that one?
Inspectors are going to assess, they're not going to go up on the roofs. If there is a flat roof and there's permanent access to there, they can assess it from there. But other than that, inspectors under the standards as part of their observations are not to go on roofs unless, again, there's flat roof with permanent access to that roof.
Okay, thank you.
And
Next
remember,
question. Oh, go ahead,
remember
Dana.
that for the voucher program, you're inspecting common areas and exterior areas only to the point that they service the unit or that they provide a pathway of travel for the tenant. So this isn't a top to bottom inspection of the property like it is potentially for other programs. So a roof assembly inspection might be even more different, or more on the extreme different side for the voucher program and for the PBV program, because we're not looking at every nut and bolt on the voucher program side. We're looking at areas that service this unit or potentially provide communicating openings for this unit, or that provide a pathway of travel for this unit, or areas that the tenant might utilize in the property, not everywhere.
Thanks,
And,
Dana.
and
This
Rich,
next-
you can
Yeah.
clarify.
Okay.
Yeah, thanks for that, for jumping in there, Dana. Because Dana's talking about the boundaries of the inspection, which are very important when it comes to the voucher program on items and standards that may affect the actual voucher unit. And that's what, it's good to establish those boundaries first. And I believe, and I don't want to speak for Dana, but I'm sure the guidebook's going to help in clarifying some of those boundaries of the inspection. And then you apply the standards as written based on where you're standing, what you're observing, and what's the defect that's being observed. So I appreciate that clarification, or to further clarify the boundaries of location, because it is very important for the voucher program. It is not like our other side of the house where we're doing inspections, the entire roof and all those things. This is about how it can affect the voucher unit.
Okay, thank you. Dana, this next one is for you. Is HUD going to release a required checklist?
So HUD has released a checklist to the greatest extent we can so far. There is an available checklist on HUD's website, the NSPIRE main website. Maybe if someone has access, they can post it to the chat. But it is in 3 different formats: PDF, a fillable PDF, and an Excel version. It's not a required form, so it isn't an exact replacement for the 52580 on the HQS as previously defined side, but it's what we've got so far. We have requested feedback on it at any time as part of the notice. You're more than welcome to provide feedback, and any future iterations of it, we'll do our best to incorporate any feedback. But at this point, there is a checklist out there. It's very basic, but it is usable for you to do these inspections.
All right, thank you. This next question, I'm not sure I totally understand. It says, for homes that are not using grounded outlets and have been grandfathered in, what is the most appropriate mitigation? Rich, can you address this? I'm not sure what the mitigation part means, but
yeah, so yeah, we tend to not like to be prescriptive on how to mitigate defects because as the HUD being the authority for the standards, we don't want to tell people how to install things and stuff like that. What we have seen out there in the field and I think you're referring to the 2-prong outlets. We've seen them replaced with GFCIs. And then those GFCIs would be tested accordingly. We're not saying that's a prescriptive method. It's something that we've seen out there. And I think, Dana, I'm not sure if HUD still has, under the ACV, had a lot of information about the 2-prong outlets. And I believe it may be still public facing, obviously until we implement NSPIRE all the way. But I believe there's a lot of information about 2-prong outlets and some of the mitigation techniques that are used.
So Rich, are 2-prong outlets no longer passable under NSPIRE? If they're operating, are they okay?
Yeah, there's no, right, currently under our standards, there's nothing that prohibits those. They'll be tested for power, right? And then, of course, that's the GFCI part where near the water source obviously is different. You can't have both. You can't have an ungrounded outlet and GFCI at the same time. That would operate properly near water conditions. So I would say, long story short, 2-prong outlets are still acceptable under NSPIRE.
Okay, thank you. We have a raised hand, Marvin. If we want to go, can we go to that?
Yes, we certainly can. And Craig, please make sure to accept the unmute.
Right, I got you. So it's more of an observation than a question, but I've tried raising this concern to HUD via the email, and I don't think I can convey my point accurately. So on the NSPIRE inspection standards for an exterior wall, deficiency 2 is for peeling paint of 10 square feet or more. And it specifically references buildings built after 1978. And it states that, if it's a target property, that it should be evaluated under the lead-based paint hazard. But under the lead-based paint hazard, the target property for HCV would be prior to 1978 and a child less than 6 years of age resides. So I feel like there's a gray area where if it's built prior to 1978, but there's no child in the house that's under the age of 6, it wouldn't fail the lead-based paint. And it technically doesn't fail the exterior paint because it specifically mentions that this is for after 1978. So I don't know if that's been mentioned before or if I'm reading it wrong.
Rich, do you have any thoughts?
Probably a 2-part question here. One that Dana might be able to jump in on the policy side. but for establishing the target property piece. But outside of that, following the standards, it would just be about, if it's built after 1978, it's just about the peeling paint itself being an area that's 10 square feet or more. And maybe Dana, you could jump in on the question regarding the target property and how to determine that based on the age of the occupants.
Yeah, I guess I might need a little bit more clarification on the second half of that, because you've got an outside exterior wall, and it's and if we meet that 10 square feet or more, but it's after, or if it's before 78, so now we have to go under the lead-based paint. And then you go to the lead-based paint and you're looking for it to be just wondering if it's a target property, or if it's not a target property, then it's not a deficiency. Is that kind of what you're?
Yeah.
I know it's not a question, but.
No, yeah. So let's just say the property is built in 1950.
Okay.
And it has more than 10 square feet of peeling paint on the exterior of the property.
Yep.
So it does not fit within the exterior wall deficiency, but it also wouldn't fit within the lead-based paint deficiency because there's no child in the household.
Okay.
So it would pass.
Okay.
So I guess that's my only question is why would a unit built after 1978 that has peeling paint fail, but if it's built before 1978 it passes?
Okay, I see where you're going.
Yeah,
Sorry,
I've never been able to convey. I've never been able to do that over email.
Yep, I can see why. Okay, so we might have to just think on that. I don't have a clarification or an answer for you, but it's a good point to bring up. And let me just kind of, we'll think about that one. Thank you for clarifying.
Thank you, Dana. And we'll have to look that one up. Okay.
But I do get what you're saying. Thank you, Craig.
The next question is, what happens if the resident fails the Section 8 inspection due to not informing the office about any work orders that need to be addressed before the inspection? Will the property be penalized because of this? So I can start, and Dana, you can jump in. I mean, if the unit fails, the unit fails. It's not that the property is being penalized. They'll be asked to correct the deficiency as part of the inspection process. It's possible, I guess, that it could be determined whether or not it's tenant caused or owner caused. But if it wasn't tenant caused, it's just normal wear and tear and they didn't report it, the owner would be responsible for correcting that deficiency before the unit could pass. Dana, do you have anything to add, or did I miss something?
No, I think you got it, but I think they might be asking in terms of a multifamily Section 8 property. And again, HUD doing the inspection.
When they said Section 8, I thought we were clear.
Yeah, I know, okay. I got you. And maybe I'm wrong too, but this is again not HUD doing an inspection. This is the Housing Authority doing the inspection, and so this is if the Housing Authority determines again that it is family caused deficiencies, they can do that. There is language in the regulations and program requirements that allow you to do that. But this would be PHA policy, and it's not HUD doing an inspection and not HUD penalizing a property. So just to be clear, these are not multifamily Section 8 inspections or PDRA inspections. These are housing choice voucher or project-based voucher inspections that we are talking about here, where the PHA or a PHA hired contractor or management company is doing the inspection for the PHA.
Thank you, Dana. I appreciate that. Okay, this next one is a little bit complicated. I mean, it's just a lot. So I will read it. It says, under the electrical ground fault circuit interrupter or arc fault circuit interrupter outlet or breaker, under that standard, it states determine if each outlet within 6 feet of a water source is GFCI protected. Can you please advise if HUD has provided any supplemental guidance regarding how this distance is to be measured? If not, are you able to share related guidance during this call? For example, a section of the 2020 National Electrical Code states sinks where receptacles are installed within 6 feet from the top inside edge of the bowl of the sink, or bathtubs or shower stalls where receptacles are installed within 6 feet of the outside edge of the bathtub or shower. So Rich, can you address this one?
Sure. So we're comparing the National Electric Code versus our NSPIRE standards. For our NSPIRE standards, the action that the inspector uses is measuring from the center of each water source, right? The sink, the bathtub. So basically to the center, we're saying, I want to say to the center of that source, not to the edge, it does differ than the National Electric Code that they might be referring to. While it may conflict, it's where we're at right now for the NSPIRE standards is measuring to the center of each water source. I would say to the center of the faucet, basically is in short.
Okay, thank you. Okay, next question. The NSPIRE for HCV programs was referred to as NSPIRE B during HUD's demonstration. With this being stated, can you please advise if the department will continue to refer to NSPIRE for the HCV programs as NSPIRE B moving forward? I'm not sure anyone has any insight on this. Dana, do you?
Yeah, I think that we don't have a concrete answer for you. I think you're going to hear a lot of terms, and this kind of gets back to my original, the first question. And Todd, I'm not sure if you were on the call when we stated it, but I think there's going to be a lot of names for the voucher program inspections for a while. I think some people are still going to refer to it as NSPIRE V. I think some people are going to refer to it as NSPIRE for voucher programs. I think some people are still going to refer to it as HQS, as it still is technically in regulation. Some folks might refer to it as just NSPIRE or NSPIRE HQS. It's going to get a little confusing. I don't have a way around that. It's technically not NSPIRE V, if we're being real honest, but it is used. It is still used, even at HUD. So I know that doesn't, again, answer your question, but it's going to be called quite a few things. But it is NSPIRE for the voucher programs.
Thanks, Dana. I know we kind of interchangeably use things within the office.
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
We have 2 more questions and a hand up, and we have 5 minutes. So I'd really like to get to all 3 of them. So can we do the hand up first, Marvin?
Sorry, let me go ahead and go to that individual now.
Go ahead, Kevin. If you have unmuted and you can hear me.
Kevin, please make sure that your device is also unmuted on your end.
Hello, can you hear me?
There we go. Yep, can hear you. Hi,
Sorry,
Kevin.
I didn't press the correct button. I wanted to go back to that that I think 2 people brought it up about the GFCI requirement for major appliances within 6 feet or of a water source, like washing machines. I think he brought up. I think maybe part of the issue is that if you look at the standard, it reads that it shouldn't be evaluated for major appliances, but then it has in the next sentence, a dedicated outlet is a receptacle outlet that is only capable of serving that specific appliance. And I think that's maybe where the confusion comes in, because if you have if that one outlet you can plug in 2 plugs, you could, I guess, serve something else other than that appliance. So maybe that's where the confusion is. Maybe some clarification needs to be, I don't know, brought to light on that. That's what I'm
Thank
thinking.
you. Thanks, Kevin. Rich, does that?
Sure. I mean, we'll take that information back. I mean, the dedicated outlet on the in the standards talks about it being capable of only serving that specific appliance is more of a statement. A lot of these are used for washing machines, for refrigerators, so the outlet cannot be tampered with. And when it means dedicated, it's being directly powered by a single breaker, typically 20 amp breaker back to the panel, hence being it dedicated. It's really more of a statement. Outside of that, what we were trying to avoid is the requirement to have GFCIs for these major appliances. An example, having inspectors having to pull refrigerators out to test and those type of things, when in reality, they're not near a water source where somebody would be plugging, my example before, plugging in a portable appliance that have the ability to, think of a countertop radio or something like that. It's highly unlikely they're going to reach behind a refrigerator, plug something in behind a refrigerator, and have the ability for it, or risk, or I would say measure the risk for it to fall into the sink. So
Yeah.
definitely understand what you're saying there. By having that statement afterwards may cause some confusion. And we have the ability over a 3-year cycle to update the standards and make it more clear. And we'll take that information back that you provided. We appreciate that.
I think it's not so much the refrigerators. I think it's more the washing machines, because you have a lot of times that plug is more accessible. Like the refrigerator plug is really not accessible unless you pull the refrigerator out in general. But the washing machines, a lot of times that plug is accessible. So if there's 2 plugs, people tend to use that other plug, and it's supposed to be only dedicated for that washing machine. That's what I've seen anyway.
It is a common practice under the latest codes, but currently the washing machine is not considered, somewhere where it's required to have GFCI. Again, if we see, standards changing over the next couple of years, it's something we'll surely take a look at and, measure that risk at that time and see what the current standards, the national standards are indicating.
Yeah, it was funny because, sorry, just one more. I on the public housing side, I've seen it being hit as a deficiency. That's why.
Thanks,
it's
Kevin.
The same standard.
Clearly, we have given the number of questions that have been asked about this, there's obviously room for more clarity. So I think it's great. Thank you for sort of distilling at least one of the issues, and we can take that back and try to get some more clear information out to everybody. So thank you. Okay, we have, it just turned to noon, but I just want to quickly, there are 2 questions left. One is for new staff, what are the best resources for training on lead-based paint? So we will try to get you that information. I don't have it at my fingertips unless somebody else does, but we will make sure we respond to that in the FAQs.
I just answered that. I did just answer that there's lead-based paint visual assessment training on HUD Exchange. I put it in the chat to everyone, but I didn't put the exact link. So yeah, we can certainly get that out there.
Okay, perfect. But if you Google HUD Exchange and then the name of the training, it'll pop up. So then there's just the last question, Marcy, if you could address this one. It says, how would you address an issue when a PHA or inspection agency is enforcing a standard differently than what is required by NSPIRE?
Yeah, hi, Lori. I saw this. This is a one regarding the unnecessary. They said,
for example, if they were requiring an unnecessary GFI outlet.
Right. So I would say that essentially it would have to be within the PHA's administrative plan that when there is a conflict between, say, a local code or ordinance standard and an NSPIRE standard, that the PHA would essentially have to make the call in order to either apply what is stricter, or, come to HUD to help us so that we could see, okay, where is the conflict, and essentially, kind of see where we can kind of come to a middle ground. I'm not quite sure the particulars of this one because every local community may have their own, particular local ordinances. So again, I would defer to what is stricter, And then, if they want further guidance or input from HUD, then to, check in with the field office, and then we could see how we could, whether we need to elevate it as a further policy discussion.
Okay, thank you. So contact the field office. It also could potentially be requested as a variation potentially, but
Yes.
it would probably need HUD approval in that case. So, okay, that is it. I think we got through all of the questions. Hopefully we did. Thank you all for joining.
Hey, Laurie, real
yeah.
quick. Sorry, I wanted to get back to Craig and his question. So I just talked to sort of a lead paint expert, and if just before we close out, if it's not a target property, so meaning in the voucher program, if it's not built before 78 and a child under 6, then it goes back to the exterior wall standard. So even though it might say 1978 in the exterior wall, what the intent is if it's not a target property. I'm not sure if it actually says 78, but it should say if it's not a target property. So it's got to be both in HCV. So if it's not a target property anymore, it goes back to the wall deficiency. Hope that helps.
All right. Thanks everybody for hanging on. We went a little bit over, but hopefully we got most of your questions answered satisfactorily. And please join us for the next office hours where we will continue to hopefully answer your questions. Thanks so much for joining.
That concludes our conference. Thank you for using Inteller. You may now disconnect.